You either is or you ain't. You do or you don't. You can or you can't. Or you will or you won't. Either way, baby, a good man, well, he's hard to find. Welcome to the One More for the Good Guys podcast, where good guys gather to shed light on the good life, the people, and the good things that make it that way. I'm Mike McGill with my co-host, Jamie Akins. Now, raise your glass, lend us your ear, and let's have one more for the good guys. You either is or you ain't. You do or you don't. You can or you can't. Or you will or you won't. Either way, baby, a good man, well, he's hard to find. Hey, everybody, McGill Billy here.
I'm Jamie.
Welcome to One More for the Good Guys. We got a special guest that just happened to stop by the old honky tonk today and done me a real solid, showed up with this shirt. And if any of our wrestling fans know what this means, put it in the comments and maybe we'll give you something for free. But, yeah, our good buddy, he's been on the show before, way back when we first started out. And
Pre-video,
probably a lot of pre-decorations and everything else that's in here.
Yeah, for sure. Free sheetrock.
Yeah. But our good friend and soon to be yours, Mr. Brandon Fuson.
Yeah.
Folsom.
Tennessee Brandon.
Yeah.
Tennessee Brandon.
So that's what I'm going with.
I did that on purpose.
Oh, that's fine. I've been called way worse.
Well, we're always talking. It's like, what's his name this week? Is it so-and-so? Is it blah, blah, blah?
Yeah.
Oh, but at any rate, thanks for coming by. Thanks for the T-shirt, man.
Oh, man, you're welcome. I seen that and immediately thought of you. I was like, I got to, because we've been talking about it in this wrestling chat group we got. And so it's like, I got to grab that.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you did. I was tickled to death. I just went like crazy and bought, I just bought like $200 worth of clothes, which is very unlike me. I'm usually, hanging on to them and, I just don't do it. But I was like, man, it's winter time's coming. I don't have any really I need some hoodies. I need some stuff that can be, I got plenty of long sleeve like flannels and, dressier stuff like stage stuff, but I don't want to have to wear those out all the time. So I found me a couple of three hoodies, and man, they're pretty cool. But they're definitely carrying a wrestling theme with them. So, but at any rate, thanks everybody for joining us again. Big thanks for liking, subscribing to all of our social media platforms as well as the YouTube channel. This is no kidding. We have watched all of that from Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, as well as YouTube. We've watched it grow. We've been watching it grow by 100 or a couple of hundred people every week or so
on each one. Yeah.
Pretty much on each one. And we can't thank you enough that you like what we do. And we can't thank you enough for sharing it with your friends. But if you haven't shared with your friends, shame on you. Go find somebody important, get some new friends. Maybe your old friends don't want to hear the same old shit you've been talking about. Find somebody new to tell us about if you don't care. But we're 100% grateful that you do that. So all that and all this. What are you smoking, buddy? Oh,
well, I've had a shitty week.
Okay,
so
well, tell us all about it.
I saw this today and I thought, you know what? That son of a bitch ain't gonna smoke itself.
That's right.
So I am smoking Padron 1926 Natural.
No, that's
which
a good
is
one.
Like at the top of the pyramid of my favorite things in the world.
That's a good one.
And yeah, so I can already tell you up front that this is we at the end, we're like, is this a one stick or 5? Buy as many of these as you can afford. Because you will not be disappointed. I never heard anybody say, yeah, man, I smoked that Padron 1926 and that thing sucked.
Yeah.
That's never been said.
Well, and the big thing about it too is like if you're not going to buy a box or whatever, those are great. Those are great gifts for dad or
for us,
grandpa, or for us,
hey,
or for your Uncle Willie that's got the, or for your Uncle Willie. You know, we've all got that weird uncle and that's got like the bad feet problem that stink and stuff. But hey, you could be a hero for old Uncle Willie. You could get him something for that, or if you've got a special occasion, anniversary, birth of a new child, or do you just want to do something special?
Or if you've had a shitty week.
Or if you've had a shitty week. How does that make you feel?
Yeah.
You can do that as well. But that is a Nicaraguan Puro.
As is everything they make.
But again, and I think that particular one, it only comes in one size, I think.
Maybe.
Yeah. That's the Tubo, right?
No.
Oh, no, it's not.
This is not a Tubo.
Okay.
The Tubo does come in one size.
Yes. Okay. Then
that's a little.
That.
Yeah. The Tubo's a 80th anniversary situation. This is a standard production.
Okay.
This is their. I like this in the Maduro a little better, but I ain't going to kick it out of the bed unless it wants to do it on the floor, kind of thing. So, what are you smoking? Got a pretty label on there.
Oh man, this is a really. If you're looking for a box worthy stick and something that's not going to beat the give the president's black eyes in your wallet, this is a good stick to do that with, and it's really good. It's the the Hoya de Nicaragua Silver in Toro. It is a Ecuadorian wrapper. Ecuadorian Habano wrapper with Nicaraguan fillers and a San Andres binder. It's straight up medium, nothing overpowering, a lot of dark fruits, cocoa, chocolate, very, very medium, full flavor, but medium in strength.
It's a great brand too. It's an old world brand, and your favorite Connecticut's a Hoya.
Yeah.
So,
and one of my, two of my favorite Connecticut's are Hoyas. That Uno, and then the and then the Antonio, which is one of Brandon's favorite Connecticut's.
Yeah.
But at any rate, Hoya de Nicaragua Silver, really good. A lot of dark fruit, chocolate. And we'll check back in and see what all is going on with it. But this is in the Toro. It won, Cigar Aficionado. If you care about that kind of thing, they came in at number 15 or 16 on the list in 2023. And again, a box of 20. It's a good deal, and it's a hell of a cigar for the money. So.
And Antonio's a premium smoke for a budget price too. Really.
Yes, the Connecticut for
the
sure.
Uno, not so much.
No, the Uno, of course, if you can find those, they're hard to find. But I was lucky enough to
find a couple because you gave me one.
Yeah, well, I found I was actually able to find a deal on the at one of the brick and mortar shops here in town, and she cut me a hell of a deal on it to just buy what she had left of the box. And I noticed she had another box down there, so I may go back and try to get that one as well. Brandon, what are you smoking?
Well, this is the first time having this one. You guys gave me this Undercrown.
Yeah.
And I've had a couple of Undercrowns before. I had the Sun Grown, which I really liked a lot. But right out of the gate, I was like, this thing is really flowing well. I mean, it's just burning really good. But this was new to me, but I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, no worries. That's he's smoking the Undercrown 10 Maduro. It's a little different than the regular Undercrown Maduro. It has a Maduro San Andres wrapper and Nicaraguan binder fillers.
And it's
actually, I take that back. It's got a Connecticut broadleaf binder, And the fillers are Brazilian and Nicaraguan.
It's all over the place.
It's all over the place. Looks like it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, like a 5-country blend, but it is for a budget. If you're looking for something that is as good, and you can tell them that story, if you want to find something that is as good as the Liga series that Drew Estate makes, Undercrown 10,
or as good as any Maduro. Period.
Yes,
that smoke. I mean, just from the just holding it feels substantial.
Yeah,
right.
It really does.
Man, I want everybody to watch me smoke this. You're like, look at this damn thing.
Yeah.
And then the band's great, but it just, it's got that San Andreas wrapper. I would have guessed maybe broadleaf wrapper if I hadn't known, but they look similar. They can be toothy and really rustic.
Yeah.
The way they look. But man, and you were commenting on the smoke, how much smoke it produces, Drew Estate stuff does that. And that one is no exception. It's big time smoke producer. So it's
I'm looking forward to this one as I go, because I'm already getting a wide range of tastes and flavors already just right here. But I always I enjoy them when they get more like kind of up in here and getting out near the end of it. But so it's really good so far. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. That'll be one you smoke down till you burn your fingers.
Yeah.
Because, the story. So I was watching on TikTok or something, and
Holtz
Cigar Company was on there, and they do some good social media stuff. And he was talking about the Underground series, and
they got a good YouTube channel too.
Yeah, and how the Liga, the rollers like the Liga stuff so much that they were just smoking them, and they're like, that's great and all, but you're smoking $20 sticks. So they came up with the Underground. And we like the Liga stuff. It's a treat cigar like this one. It's one that we don't get much because, at the rate we smoke, you buy $20 cigars, you're going to be in the poorhouse really quickly.
I like the Liga stuff. I really, really liked the Liga stuff about 3 or 4 years ago. And I just don't feel like they're the same now. So hands down, myself, I would smoke that cigar over the Liga's number 9s that they've got now.
And at the price point, you get to smoke 2 of those cigars. So
absolutely.
And the number 9's not my favorite anyway. No, that H99.
I like the H99 too.
What's the other one? The T52?
T52. I think that's the stock stuff.
Yeah. And they all, the Ligas, they come with no cellophane on them, like the Padrones. And they are, it's got a rustic feel to them, like that somebody just handed it to you out of the field. Here, smoke this. Yeah. So, I like that kind of thing. So, I got a feeling at the end of this, we're all going to be like, hey, buy as many of these as you can get and put them in your humidor.
Well, we say like that Padron is very much a celebratory cigar, but honestly, any of these 3 could be, any of them, any blend, any brand can be as special as you want them to be because you're the one who likes them better than somebody else.
Yeah, your opinion's all that matters.
You're
smoking one.
Brandon's kind of what have you been smoking now? A couple of years, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we're going to get into this topic. And it's good. It's actually good you are here for this because we'll just go ahead and say, so step 2 are,
we've been talking about the top 10 things that every cigar smoker should know. And this is based upon a CA article
from 2017
that we really liked. And so last week, or the last one we did was the number 1, talking about the purity of cigars and how they pretty much an unadulterated product. Once they're picked, there's no chemicals added, nothing, just water and age and time, and no, whereas a cigarette, I wrote a blog about this, but cigarette has up to 600 chemicals in it. So.
And there's a great visual diagram in the blog.
Yeah.
About that'll show you
the breakdown of a cigarette and how it's whatever.
And the parts per whatever of the chemicals that are going into it.
Right. So that was point number one. And point number two, today's topic.
Well, it's often said that 300 pairs of hands touch your cigar before it makes it to your humidor. Some claim the number's even higher than that. But suffice to say, every time you light up a cigar, there's many people with many different skills who are all contributing to bringing you the ultimate handmade product. And when people ask me, in the past, when people have asked me about my cigar and what kind is that, and they're really doing it just to make small talk.
Yeah.
And then once you kind of start, without completely nerding out and giving them an ear beating that they don't want to hear, that they don't really care, when you start telling them stuff like these 10 different bits and pieces of these 10 things that we'll cover in these episodes, it hooks a lot of people and gets them excited and makes them want to, because they're inquisitive or they're curious people, and it makes them want to learn a little bit more. And Brandon, you're the perfect example.
Yeah.
Because we were up at a good buddy of ours' house one night, staying the weekend, making a little racket and music, and I guess we were doing live streams for our music fans and stuff. And I smoked a cigar, and Brandon asked about it. And I started getting into a little bit of depth about why it was this, where it came from. And, you told me many times that you found it really, really interesting.
I did. It was one of those things I really, to be honest with you, didn't know a whole lot about growing up. When someone said cigar, I just kind of pictured a Swisher Sweet or something,
Sure.
a little plastic tip on the end.
Yeah. Me too.
It's what I thought. And when you started explaining, the way they're made and the way everything that goes into them, they were fascinating to me. But they also, one thing that I've learned is, my mom and dad growing up hated the smell of a cigar. If it was back in the day when you could still smoke in a McDonald's, if someone sat down behind them with a cigar, they'd have to move. But it was always like those paper cigars, the little cigarillos or something.
Yeah.
Have a Tampa.
And ever since
Owl.
I've started smoking these, if my mom and dad comes around, I don't smoke in the house, but if they come around outside and I'm smoking one of these, they're like, that actually smells really good. That's got a good aroma to it,
Yeah.
There's just so much about them that once you really dive into them, it's almost... it's become a new fascination of mine, and I collect them about as much as I do albums now. I'm like, when you taught me all about the humidor and how to do that and everything. That was a whole new world to me. Because back in the day, I used to buy cars off a guy that was over in Middlesboro. He sold used cars. He looked just like Jackie Gleason. I mean, he could have been Jackie Gleason's doppelganger. And he used to, I would love to know, he's passed away, but I would love to know what it was he smoked, because I would go in his office and he would open up his humidor. And I remember back when I was a kid thinking, he's got his cigars in a jewelry box. I didn't know any better. So it's been, it was probably about 2.5, 3 years ago, somewhere in there that we did that. And I slowly just started getting more and more into them.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting. And there is I meant to say this last week. There's a great movie on YouTube called Hand Rolled. That if you want to, you haven't?
No, not yet.
Oh, it's really good.
I would recommend obviously if you've got,
and it's a freebie. It's
free.
Yeah, it's not on pay or anything.
And if you've got interest in learning more than just, hey, did that one make a list? Grandpa Jim looked good smoking that one, and it's very educational. It's entertaining. And just shows a lot of good things that are being done in these countries, and what a revenue stream it's creating for underprivileged and
basically poverty-stricken places. This is the job to have,
Yeah, for sure. But the cigar obviously starts with a seed, right? A tobacco seed, and people like Hoya, people like Padron, they were refugees in Cuba and went to Nicaragua, or went to the Dominican or to Costa Rica, or
wherever the hell
to
they could go other than Cuba. Right.
Right. And they were in the cigar business there, in some shape, form, or fashion or the other. Well, just like we, I always try to find Mom Mr. Stripey tomatoes. That's an old heirloom brand. I mean, I know people that love the Cherokee purples and different ones. I grew some one year called mortgage lifters that got big around as damn hubcaps. They were the craziest, best looking tomato you ever seen in your life. But heirloom brands, and the reason heirloom brands like that, and when you read a descriptor in a magazine and or an online publication, or if you're watching a podcast and we're saying this is a Havana seed wrapper, then these families took those seeds with them in exile. And when they got to these countries, they realized the similarities in the soil, and they were farmers. So a lot of these blends and seeds and different tobaccos have made a pilgrimage over the seas and came from Cuba. But it always starts with the seed selection, and then it goes into a greenhouse cultivation until those seeds sprout, and then they become seedlings, and then they become, they get a little bigger and they become like your starter size plant. And most of them are often, planted in trays and grown in a greenhouse until they get to that size.
Just like tomatoes.
Yeah. Or just like tobacco that people grow around here.
Yeah. Which is rare now.
Yeah.
Used to be everywhere.
But once the seedlings are a few inches tall, like we're saying, they're transplanted to the fields where they can flourish. And at full height, with maturity, the leaves are removed by hand, harvested, and hung in a curing barn to dry and turn brown. And that's usually requires a few dozen hands to aid in that process as well. And that's before it's even left the farm. It's got to hang and dry out in the curing barns for so long before it's able to be taken to the facility or the tabacalera or wherever the whole show takes place.
And I would imagine the reason they do all that by hand is because they don't want to damage the leaves.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it's cosmetic, especially obviously the wrapper.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're making cigarette tobacco, you just cut that shit down, chop it up, or whatever.
Mm-hmm. The cured tobacco is then taken to the facility, unpacked, and piled up for fermentation. And then when your fermentation is complete, the tobacco pile is separated and laid on drying racks to air out. Then it's all repacked and stowed for aging. And, your aging rooms can be 55 degrees at, like 60% humidity, and depending on what they're wanting to.
For 4 years.
Or with the Perdomo 30th, it spent 15 years because 4 years was taken up by the pandemic.
That's true.
Yeah. So, a lot of like your Padron tobaccos are going to be aged, and they have a different process of aging theirs than, say, like the people at Hoya do. Now, it may be very, very similar, but there's also differences in between. It's just like recipes. The people at Drew Estate probably have a little bit different way that they do theirs. That's still very similar as well. But, after that, they'll get put in the aging room, and all it'll be like, it'll come out of that aging room, and then it's unpacked again, and then it's rehydrated with water. Sometimes they will use maybe, some companies might even use like a water mixture like you do with smoking pork butts, where you do it with apple cider or
a little
some
bit of
kind
acid,
fruit juice.
Yeah.
To
break down those sugars a little
right.
bit.
And then after that, it'll go into another special room called a misting room, where it's just receiving the proper amounts of humidification to get it back to full life. And then it's all categorized by colors. So if you notice, next time you look at a box of cigars, you know, you're going to find most of them are going to be pretty similar. They're all going to be kind of the same colors, but on some of them, they're a little different, and sometimes they're a little darker to use than they want, or maybe they're a little lighter than what they want to put next to, or what their expectations for that stick was when they first started working on the blends. But anyways, it'll go all into colors, and then it'll be chosen for the next process, which is the outer wrapper leaves also undergo destemming, which is a process where the thick central vein is removed from the leaf. And
by hand. And sometimes that step is done completely by hand. Other times the tobacco sometimes could be fed through a stripping machine. And then for filler, a worker will remove part of the stem by hand, leaving the rest intact. Now, on filler tobaccos, not to get too far off the road here, but all of these cigars have got stems in them at some place, some point in time. A lot of people will say, I found a stem in my cigar. Well, it's got to have a stem, or it won't burn properly. All of those are put in there in order and by levels of how lower priming tobacco, which is grown lower on the plant, doesn't combust as much. Mid-range tobacco combusts more. The high, the top of the plants are better known as the Lajero. It's getting all the sun, all the vitamins, all the nutrients, and it's going to be the power of the tobaccos. So it takes a little bit of all of that, including stems, for it to burn and combust properly. So if you ever cut one and you see, oh man, they missed something here, they didn't miss anything. But so after that's done, and that again, that takes sometimes, depending upon what their final product is. They're not just making one blend, they're making several blends. And just like these cigars on an MSRP price point, they're probably all within $5 or $6 of each other, but they're all over the board as far as MSRPs goes. So as they're selecting all that tobacco, that then is being taken to different spots and used for different blends. The thing I love that really drew my interest with this is that every step is an art form. It's not like they don't do anything that's not purposeful to this, right? From the very beginning, every step is deliberate and
very deliberate and intentional.
Yes.
And the same way.
Yeah. And that's, we were talking yesterday.
As hundreds of years, for generations, it's been done that way.
We were talking to Oscar yesterday at an event, and he brought up something that I mentioned a lot, which is, I don't know why I mentioned a lot, because I don't drink wine necessarily. I mean, I've had it, but it's very much parallels wine as far as the craft that's involved, how much goes into that. And that's something about this, because every step that you've named, back to the original point here, is a group of different folks doing it too. They
specialize in what they do.
That's right.
And of course you can't forget the rolling process. And in the rolling process, that's going to require appointed factory workers to dole out the proper proportions of aged tobacco to the rollers each day. Now, we were talking about this a little bit last night. So, at one of the cigar socials we went to, and, you know, your finish rollers, the ones who are applying the wrappers and the caps and making it of what basically the finished product of what you see other than the band being put on them, can roll. They roll in pairs, and they roll up to 600 cigars a day.
Wow.
Somebody that's qualified and considered a production roller. So, you know, that requires these people separating all that and then taking it to those stations. Hey, this section A is rolling Connecticut, Antonio, Connecticut today. Section B is rolling the 1970 Antonio. They're rolling this over here. So,
and then on top of that, they break it down by size, and
right.
they'll have. That's why torpedoes cost more, because they're harder to roll.
Wow.
So,
torpedoes, figurados, anything that's not your classic Parejo or classic regular box press shape. It requires a different set of experienced rollers to do those. And they get paid more because they get paid by the stick.
That's really cool to know, because I love the Hoya torpedoes. That's one of my favorites.
One of my favorites too.
The Antonio
1970.
Oh yeah.
Antonio. It's like a 4x60, but it's in that little torpedo shape. It's a great cigar.
Apparently, back on the Parejo thing, because and we're going to do an episode on this, but now why I'm thinking about it is like the box press stuff falls under the Parejo umbrella, because effectively the way they name them by shape is from a 2-dimensional profile. So if you look at it 2-dimensionally, like if you drew that on a paper flat, rectangle is Parejo. Even if it's not perfectly, I mean, this thing started round until they put it in a box and pressed it down. So this box press would fall under a Parejo shape, but it's a box press Parejo because the profile of it is rectangle. Whereas, because you can have a boxed press torpedo, or you can have a box or a regular round torpedo. It's still a torpedo, or bellicoso for that matter.
Yeah.
So it's more about the profile from a 2-dimensional standpoint, and not, how does that look? So that's how that works, from what I gather, because they throw terms around and there's not a whole lot of consistency with everything.
Not a lot of times there's not. Yeah. The torcedor takes his pile of leaves back to his rolling table and recreates the cigar according to the cigar maker's blend, bunching and rolling each cigar by hand. The blend is then formulated of exacting proportions of very specific tobaccos to impart a very particular smoking experience, and a formulation that puts even more hands on the cigars. So like with Padron, so just to catch back up and make sure I'm saying this right, as as those people get them, they roll the fillers and the binder, and then they go in molds, whether they're a Parejo shape or a box press, and they sit in the molds for however long it is. They're taken back out, and then a lot of times they may even be put up again for more aging before they get to the final where the wrapping is done. Yeah,
because they will age them at different stages in the process just to make it a different blend-ish thing, right? So they'll age them in bundles, or they might, like you said, roll them and bind them and wait for the wrapper to go and then age them at that stage.
Yeah. So. Padron does a thing that's kind of interesting that I don't know if anybody else does. I shouldn't say no one else does, but I don't know. And of course, again, I don't know a whole lot about that of it either, but they put all their cigars up wet with the wrapper and all ready to go, and then do their any kind of extra aging after the fact.
Oh,
which is kind of neat.
After completely rolled. After
I think
finished.
so, even with the wrapper.
Yeah.
Now, when we're saying, I don't know,
whatever they're doing, they're doing it
bands,
right. I can tell you that.
Yeah. But then finished cigars are then sorted for that color consistency that we talked about earlier, and then sent to the aging room. Finally, they're banded up, boxed, and then sent out. But again, once they get back in that aging room after they're all married together, binder, wrapper, filler, depending on what the maker or the blender is wanting to do with that cigar, they could stay in there even longer, Again, I go back to the perfect example is the 30th year, 30th anniversary for the Perdomo brand. They sat for an extra, like I said, an extra 3 or 4 years.
Was the 30th going to be 2020? Around in there,
so,
somewhere in there.
Their course,
the Connecticut's the best of that group too, I think.
Yeah,
of the 30th. It's
good. I did smoke a sun-grown the other day.
I like it,
and it was pretty darn good. I don't
dislike any of them. Really,
no, no, that's the problem we have. We like them all.
That's right. It's like pizza. It's pretty good,
This is the very basic chronological order of how a cigar is made. There are, of course, plenty of other quality control steps that vary from operation to operation, families to families, and nearly all are completed entirely by hand. But the point is this: a single hand rolled cigar is a massive human effort that requires plenty of hands-on expertise at any level.
Craftsman, man, at every level. It's amazing. Even like that color process when they are effectively culling wrapper leaves, they're like, oh, that one's a shade off, man. I can just see going blind doing that. It's like,
oh yeah,
is this good enough? And they just make it look so easy. I can't imagine how hard it is to roll a cigar at this level,
Yeah, I've thought a lot about that and the consistency in which they do it.
Yeah,
that's so impressive.
Roll it by hand with the consistency of machine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like you never get. I've smoked thousands of cigars and I've never looked at one and go, oh, they kind of screwed the pooch on this.
Yeah, I'm not either.
Might burn a little wonky every now and then, but man, they all look the same. It's really a miracle that they can get it done like that.
It is.
Yeah, the consistency. The consistency is what always gets me. Is just we'll take a brand like Padron, for instance. Since you're smoking a Padron, I've never had one that had a bad draw.
No,
from 1,000 series all the way up to their high dollar anniversary series. I've never had a Perdomo with bad construction, or I may have had one, but that might have been I was so excited to get it because it was the 30th, and I probably didn't let it acclimate once it from being in the mail, and those were coming basically straight off the boat. They were selling them as fast as they could get them here.
Yeah.
But, another brand, La Roma de Cuba. I've never had a plugged one. I've never had one that had such a terrible burn that it ruined my enjoyment of the cigar. So I think, and if you talk to or listen to cigar makers, on these interviews in different places that they talk about this stuff, you can see and realize that the fit and finish and the quality control and the superiority of cigars now versus, I'm talking industry wide, now versus like the boom in the 90s, are light years, heads and tails above in quality than what they were at one time.
Yeah. Seems like everybody, even the boutique brands, have got the rolling process and the construction process pretty much streamlined, where it don't matter. You know, we smoked a boutique brand last night with that crown heads, and you take the band off, you can't tell it from that. You know, as far as the way it looks, I mean, it was just flawless. Oliva is a really big brand as far as their stuff just looks flawless.
Yeah. They don't get enough credit. I mean, I guess they do in a lot of circles, but in a lot of guys or different channels or this and that. And it's because I think one of the reasons is because there's just so much to choose from. Mm-hmm. But Oliva really is. I don't know if I've ever had one that was bad.
Certainly not construction
or draw or flake. I mean, they're just always pretty spot on.
Yeah.
Pretty spot on. And that's an old family. That family probably helped save Cameroon wrappers, which we'll do an episode on that one day from that article. But yeah, nothing wrong with Olivas for sure. Tobacco that's arranged in enormous piles, called, I'm going to try to pronounce this, Polognes, for fermentation. The combination of pressure, water, and naturally occurring heat will rid the tobacco of undesirable properties like bitterness and or ammonia. So there you go. It is very much, I mean, and you think 300 workers in a third world country, how much money that puts back into the economy of the towns that they live in. And, you know, like that Fuente interview I was telling you I was listening to, you know, when his family first went into Nicaragua, there was like 4 major farms, 4 fields, 4 companies in Esteli, and now there's literally dozens. And their economy is better than it's ever been, you know.
Almost solely because of the cigar industry.
Yes.
Because there's not a whole lot. I mean, you know, obviously they have exports like fruit and things like that because of their tropical climate. But that's one thing when the war on cigarettes here in the States and really in Western society in general has kind of given these a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth because, where they're smoking, and it couldn't be too different. I mean, there's no relation other than you like both of them. That's it. That's the end of it.
Yeah.
But one thing that gets unsaid is, okay, you shut down cigar industry in America. What do you do to Nicaragua and DR and Honduras? You put them back at third world status completely, because now what are you going to do now?
Well,
you know,
thankfully this can be a two-edged sword too, and that's another topic for debate. But the rest of the world, the European market now is getting more New World product than they've ever gotten in their life too. Some say that's a great thing, and others say that maybe it's not so good, that, you know, half of certain percentages of the selection we would have here now, we're finding things that are on back order. Maybe that's because true. Another country has ordered, X amount of, certain amount of cigar XYZ or whatever, you know.
Well, and a lot of that I read is because apparently the Cuban cigar industry is starting to lack some in quality, and so people are turning to.
Well, they're lacking in quality. They're lacking in, and that's quality.
Well, lacking in inventory too, probably.
Well, they're lacking in quality from as far as construction, and they're lacking in quality as far as production. And they're also lacking in quality because they're being counterfeited as fast as $20 bills are here.
Yeah.
You know? And you're talking about, you know, so like the Cohiba Bahique is, you know, it's like a $1,800. It's $300 a stick, basically.
Yeah.
And so you can buy a box at your duty-free store or where you're going, or
you can get one for $3 in Cancun.
Yeah.
That's fake.
You can get a 20 count box, which they don't make.
Yeah.
But lots of different little things. But they went as far as putting holographic stickers. Their Padron, if you look, every cigar, turn that band over and look at it. Oh, like that, where you can see it. There's a number on there.
Yeah.
Each one of their cigars are numbered. So it can be authenticity, you know, it can be authenticated. And they're doing that with all the Cuban stuff mostly.
Well, they should. I mean, it's not that hard to counterfeit a cigar, because as long as you can get a band that looks like something, because who in the hell, I mean, how many people in the world you can hand them one and smoke it and they're like, oh, this is from Cuba.
Yeah.
Nobody we know. Right.
Exactly.
I mean, some of these master blenders, I'm sure they can be like, oh yeah, this was, and they'll tell you where it was grown, that kind of thing. But, so that's, but it is nice to have consistency across the board, because, you know, with that inventory problem that you could get with Europe and places really, you know, taking a hunk of what would be American inventory, where that's vacuum is happening, you got an influx of all these new brands over here, where it's just like, this is like, in my opinion, the second golden era of cigars, because now, I mean, they're popping up everywhere.
They are.
And they're not bad.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So.
I'll tell you, well, they're not newer now, but, you know, we should do a thing on new brands that we like and up and coming stuff that we would recommend. But saying all that about all that, what are you smoking these days, Brandon? More of where do you find your what's your favorites these days? I'll start there.
Well, that's a good question. I've started. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Those Villigers that you gave me,
man.
Because I was a big fan of the Monte Cristo White series, and I still am. Yeah. I like those. And I like those with my morning coffee. There's just something about that goes good with coffee. And then we found the Villigers, and I have really loved those. So that's kind of my morning cigar. That's what I try to go to. And then I still like the La Jolla Antano Torpedoes. Yeah. That's another favorite. These Undercrowns, I've never had a bad one. And like you was talking about the La Roma de Cubas, the La Roma de Cuba was probably my first favorite.
Yeah.
You know, it was the one that I really gravitated toward at first. Never really had a bad one. Padrones are great. I can't think of the name of the one that you gave me. The Partagas it was that thing was stout.
That was actually
I thought so. Yeah,
part of it was gifted, or they were gifted to me. I smoked at least 3 or 4 of them.
I think those were 12 to 13 years old in my humidor.
Yeah,
when I gave them.
Another one that I've actually
and still stout.
Another one I've actually kind of grown to like, but I have to take them in small doses and maybe every once in a while. But they're those little Kentucky fire cured.
Oh yeah,
man, they're stout. I don't smoke in my car anymore, but I used to. And I was down here in Knoxville and going back home, and I was like, well, you know, this would be small. This would be good for the road, you know, and I'll just take it. And I got about halfway home. I was like, man, I don't know if I should have been doing this driving at the same time. I mean, I was almost ready to get in the fetal position. It was like, whoa. I mean, it's packed such a good little punch, but I'm not, and I saw bigger sizes of that. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know if I'll go there.
You know, a cigar you should try if you like that fire cured thing. is a Toscano. We'll try to see what we can round up a box of those, and but they and the good thing about those are they're an actually I can't remember the blend's name, but you can actually cut them in half. You can cut them any size you want them.
Wow.
Because there's no cap on either end.
Oh.
And there are a lot of Italian tobacco in it, but it's also got a percentage of fire cured tobacco in it. They're very, very rustic looking, but I tried one time and it doesn't have. It's still got the punch, but it don't have all of that. That fire cure is not, that smoke flavor is not as heavy as the Kentucky ones are. So those would be a good option for you. You could have a little 3 or 4 inch one, and they're not very big ring gauges with them being, European made.
Yeah.
But, they're good cigars, very overlooked.
Yeah.
That Partagas Black, I bought those years ago. And the reason, I gave them to him at that time, that was several years ago now, 2 or 3 years ago, or 3 years ago, I guess. The reason I gave them to him is because I ended up in the damn fetal position with one of them one time.
Yeah.
I was out on the porch, and of course I love the look of it. It's got that dark, it just, man, I got about halfway through that thing and they found me laying in the bathroom floor. I didn't throw up or anything, but man, I was like, are you okay? It's like, I'm fine. Just don't turn the light on. Leave me alone.
Yep.
And, but you liked them. They may have mellowed out some too.
They definitely mellowed out. I'm sure
because I had one. I found one at a smoke shop, and same label, same thing, but it wasn't as stout as the one that you guys gave me.
But they had a unique taste. They had some almost like there was kind of some licorice or anise or maybe even a little chicory, I mean, it had a real unique thing to it.
Yeah, it did. It's those Punch Diablos are kind of after the same thing, I think, that Partagas Blacks are. And I really love the Diablo. I mean, and I probably would like the black now. I probably just hotboxed it and got sick,
It's easy to do sometimes when you're impressed with them right out of the gate. You can't help but keep going back to it. I should have mentioned the Olivas too. You turned me on to a sample we found online, and I went through those pretty quick. Because I would go to my humidors and look at what I had, and I want to save some of these, but I couldn't resist.
Well, and they're the right price. I did
with the Melanios.
They're the right price, and
you don't feel like.
And like you was talking at the start of the show, you'd had a shitty day. It's one of those things where if you have had a shitty day and you come home, you want it to be a good, it's like you want to know, hey, I got this, that's so a lot of times for me, after a long day, I'd be like, hey, I know this one ain't going to disappoint me.
Right.
Life's too short to smoke a bad cigar.
That's exactly
it.
That's a t-shirt.
Yeah.
That's a saying.
Yeah.
That is a good t-shirt idea.
It is.
Yeah.
All right. You heard it here first. We'll give thanks to Brando. Jamie came up with the slogan.
Yeah.
But it's true. I mean, you don't want to.
Well,
I came up with that because we've been sitting in here talking, and you go through a stage. You can relate to this, I'm sure. When you said it earlier, you've been collecting cigars like you've been collecting albums because you want to try everything.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's cheap. And we went through that stage ourselves. And then, one day we were talking, I was like, I like samplers and because I've done all that. But I said, when I buy a box, I'm going to buy something I know is a home run.
Yeah,
I know that I'm not going to be disappointed. And that's where that came from. It's like, I don't know that I've ever had a cigar. Well, that's not true. But for the most part, I'm like, oh, this is okay.
Yeah.
It's decent,
Yeah.
It's 5 stick worthy or whatever. But it's like you said, it's like sometimes you want to just know that that's what happened with this today. I bought some Robusto size stuff because I knew we were going to smoke more than one. And I thought, my God, I'm smoking that one today.
Yeah.
Don't give a damn. It ain't going to get no better sitting there,
Well, and that's
the 2 years.
That's the other thing too, is you think about, I do, like when I first started kind of amassing a little bit of a collection, I would just be like, oh, I ain't going to smoke that one right yet. I'm going to save that one for this or that. And then at some point in time, you just finally are like, well, what am I doing with it?
What are you saving it for?
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
Now I could say I still will take like 5 even out of a box that I like, and I'll maybe squirrel them away somewhere where I'll forget about them.
Yeah.
And then come back a year later and be like, oh.
It's like finding a 20 in your jeans pocket.
Yeah.
You're like, I forgot I had that.
Yeah.
It's like, damn.
And it's kind of fun to experiment to see if it did get any better.
Yeah.
A lot of times I find that a lot with the Dominican tobacco, that it ages really, really well and can be this cigar. I've had this cigar for a long while, but
I've never had a cigar that I put in a humidor that didn't get better ever. I mean, you leave it for, I used to have a rule. I wouldn't smoke one unless it was in there a year.
Yeah.
Which,
oh, wow.
At one time, we were at that place yesterday, and they had a humidor. I had this. It's a table humidor, and I had 2 of them. So I got one that was like damaged. They sent me another one. So I was like, okay, I got to fill both these up now. I can do that. And I had like at that time 2,000 cigars.
Yeah.
Wow.
And but now I'm just gonna, I like trying new stuff, but I'm gonna. As far as my stable collection over there, I'm going to keep the horses that I like.
That's kind of where I've came to now. I've got my humidors, and I've got the ones that I'm going to sample and try or save for a special occasion. I got them over here. Then I just got my standards that I just rely on.
Yeah. I still got one. I got one humidor. I got 2 that are the stuff I like.
Yeah.
And then I have one that I still keep for. I still have a Cigar of the Month club because we do this, and it's always good to have different content, new stuff. And then I have, so I have that humidor specifically for those sticks and for the Standard and Twain, the company that sends them out. That's the blind. You don't know what they are until you smoke them.
They got a QR code.
On them.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And so I keep that one for like we started a thing called Wild Card Wednesdays. So you just I'll put up a picture of 10 different ones and be like, which one should I smoke? Yeah. I'll check back in later. So that's still kind of fun for me, but for the most part, I know, like you say, I know which ones aren't going to let me down.
Yeah.
And that's the ones I'll gravitate.
Well, and I do like Brandon does. You're talking about the Monte Cristo and the Villiger with your coffee.
Yeah.
See, that's my Perdomo champagne time right then.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
That's what I want. I want that. And we went to a place Wednesday or Tuesday, and the guy there he didn't know that I knew anything, I guess. And he was just talking about it. It's like, oh, I got these Perdomo champagnes. I was like, yeah, I smoke one every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
And it's just something I don't get tired of. And you start associating it with that coffee and that morning time. And I ain't got time in my mornings to have a shitty cigar. I've got to set my day right.
No. It's just like getting up and saying, "Hi, damn, I'm going to have the shittiest day I can today."
Absolutely.
And I remember when you first introduced me to cigars, one thing you said that just kind of like struck a chord with me, and it made me think. He was like, at the end of the day, it's kind of like you come home after a long day and the cigar says, I made it.
Yeah, I made it.
Like I made it here. It's in the day. And I don't know. It's like, and it's not like smoking a cigarette where you're just sitting there and just trying to smoke it and throw it. It's not the same. It's not the same experience at all.
Not at all.
And so it's more of like, for me, it's winding down and, just trying to decompress from the day and just something very calming about it for me.
Yeah,
but I've noticed there has been more of a boom of it in the last couple of years. I don't remember seeing cigar shops around town, years ago as much, but we're starting to see more of it seems like it's starting to make a comeback, and I think it's really cool.
Yeah, it's in vogue right now. I mean, it's just like people are, especially with the game coming up, Victory Cigar, and it made me think it's like every cigar is a Victory cigar.
Yeah,
I beat something today.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
at least I just I didn't go backwards.
Yeah,
exactly. That's right. You made it. So
it's like that George Carlin skit, "Safe at Home."
Yeah.
I have my head away from the microphone. But yeah, it's just like that. I remember hearing him do that skit, George Carlin, that "Safe at Home."
Yeah.
I was like, that's kind of like a cigar, man. I made it.
Yeah.
I did good today. But, well, this one is, I would definitely, if you like, this is very much full flavor, but pretty medium in strength. And I would say medium to maybe medium plus in strength. You'll get some earth, you'll get some dark fruits, some coffee, real nuanced stuff. But this is a pretty great budget stick as far as that goes. There's some more out there that's a little more budget friendly, but the Hoya Silver and Toro, I would say you can feel safe in getting you a box of those.
Oh, definitely. And yesterday, saw somebody come in to buy some cigars for somebody as a gift. And this cigar, if you want to buy somebody a cigar as a gift, get them a Padron.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to go wrong. Whoever you get this for is going to be like, they either know their cigars, and if they know their cigars, they're really going to be happy. And if they don't know their cigars, when they smoke one of these, they're going to be really happy.
Yeah.
Because they just, I've never splurged and bought a box of these because, $500 or what it would for probably. But man, if you've got that kind of money to throw around. We
split a box.
Yeah, we split a box. And, but still, half a box is 200.
No,
but if you're going into a shop, come into our shop or whatever, and you want to buy something for your dad or your mom, whatever, this is the brand to get.
Yeah, even your Uncle Luke with a stinky fungi toenail. Just do it. What says you there,
man? This is a really good one, and I've always liked undercrowns, but I really enjoyed this one. And it kind of almost had a little bit of a butterscotch moment at one point.
Yeah,
it's been really good.
Yeah, very good. Well, that's it. That's that, folks. You heard it here first. Again, be sure to like, follow, subscribe, tell some folks about it. With everything coming up, stay tuned for our next episode. We're getting ready to release our 1-year episode.
That's right.
We've been doing this nonsense for a year now, every Monday.
It's awesome.
So tell somebody about us. Follow us on all the social media platforms and be kind to one another. We say it every time. We've closed the show out like this for a year now. It takes nothing to be kind. Anybody can be an asshole. It costs you nothing to be kind, but there is a certain price that will always be paid for cruelty.
That's our great ending there. And I was going to let you know, I've come up with an ending of my own now too. And, cause after that, I just wanted to say, go Yankees. So I knew you'd appreciate that. And
hey, you want to do another one?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you might not live that long. Brandon, you might just pick you up a new job. Right. Folks, we love you. Life's too short to smoke bad cigars or to do a podcast with an asshole like this. Cheers. One more for the good guys.
You either is or you ain't. You do or you don't. You can or you can't. Or you will or you won't. Either way, baby, a good man, well, he's hard to find.